the idea was that the Israelis would go around, right, and sort things regionally before they solve them locally or something like that. But and there's a fair point to saying that, you know, the core of the issue is the local issue, because essentially the Israel-Arab conflict is the Jewish presence in Palestine, like from the beginning, right? That's the conflict. So these two couldn't really be disconnected. And you could even say, if you were pro-Palestinian, which I think in a sense you are. I mean, you're not pro-Palestinian in the Hamas terms, but you wish the best for everyone. And there are some other people who we could put in that boat, people you might know, like Ahmed Fouad al-Khatib, right? So, in a sense, because of Palestinian rejectionism and because of how emboldened they've been by this myth of refugeehood that's been rampant in the Arab world and turned into a sort of, you know, something that's you can't shake it off, because no one will give it up now, because it's so ingrained in the culture, not just of Palestinians but in the entire region. You could even make the case that by going around and basically normalizing and establishing ties with the Arab countries first, you in a way improve the odds of the Palestinians to getting better lives, because you're basically getting the Arab countries into the equation, and these countries, after having normalized ties with Israel, could negotiate also to get some concessions for the Palestinians. Now, who is this bad for? It's bad for the maximalist position, right? It's bad for the from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free sort of folks. But I think in general terms, in what we would call moderate terms, you could even say that this was actually good for the Palestinians in a sense. It might turn out to be. And as for the why go around, because essentially there's been many years of being stuck in the same place, you know, with Oslo and the disengagement and the, you know, the things in between with Barak and Olmert. So I wouldn't say that I would say that the Abraham Accords could very well be a significant step in a long historic process that would eventually might lead to some de-radicalized Palestinian autonomy. I don't know if it's possible, but if it is possible, it looks like that's the way. What do you think about that?
So I agree with you in theory, but the thing never happened is the issue. It's like, I'm going to get shredded at the gym. I'm going to buy protein. I'm going to get running shoes. I'm going to get workout clothes. I'm going to get a gym membership and do everything, but then never go to the gym. And it's like, okay, well, you're not going to get ripped that way. You're just getting all the stuff. I think that there's
but what if your shirt could tell you to get ripped? You know, Saudi Arabia is not an inanimate object.
I agree, but Saudi Arabia is not going to go to the Palestinians and tell them to give up their cause, right? That's not going to happen. That has to
they
be.
Might.
They can build maybe another UAE on that place. Something along those lines.
That's a whole other thing.
I think Saudi Arabia is about as friendly as you can be, I think, to the United States and Israeli interests without completely being like part of the country. I think like the issue is just that I agree that Israel's created conditions that would allow it to force like a big peaceful arrangement between Israelis and Palestinians, but they're not doing that. I think again, I think it's a pain point that they prefer to keep open. To just kind of push the issue further down the road to continue to, I would just say, expand settlements in the West Bank and indefinitely put off having a strong Palestinian state in its presence. Like, I agree with you that the conditions you can argue the conditions have been made that might even lead to a more favorable position, long-term peace between both sides, but nobody is like pushing for that to happen. It's just like being kept open is a feeling I have.
Yeah, but you could also say that the loss of leverage on the Palestinian side could weaken the maximalist factions. I mean, you've said yourself before, and I agree with you, that the Palestinians really have no reason to stop with the maximalist position. But if the Israel normalizes with the Arab world, And if the Iranian axis is severely beaten and weakened, then that could spell the possibility for something new and exciting. So for that reason, I think that you characterizing Israel going around the Palestinians to the Arab states as some sort of mistake, I really think, I mean, it could turn out to be a mistake. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I know the future, but I think that given what we know, I think it's really hard to claim that.
Hey, just a second, Stephen, before you answer, that's the last talking point about this subject, because we want to go to other subjects as well. So a response, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if I were to hear that as a Palestinian, then in my mind, we have to do as much terrorism as possible because, yeah, it's the situation is getting increasingly desperate as more and more people are being extricated from the conflict. You got to consider, right, that the Palestinians of the 20th century were a people that were fighting alongside their Arab brothers that were telling them, from Cairo to Damascus to the capital of Jordan. I fucked up.
Amman.
Not Alan.
Amman.
Amman. That's it. Yeah, I was saying Alan. Amman. But that all of their strong Arab brothers and everybody in the region was helping them fight this war, and they, we're going to get vengeance for the Nakba. We're going to come back, and we're going to, screw them up and figure everything out. And one by one, you're watching your allies evaporate and be replaced with the most worthless people ever. Like, well, how did I go from Egypt to fucking Iran? And how did I go from Syria to Hezbollah, and how did it go from Jordan to fucking Ansar Allah? What the fuck? Like, all of your allies now are gone. The only people who are helping you are the most extremist, crazy people in the universe. And the situation is getting increasingly desperate. And I don't know where that ever ends. We're like, okay, we are truly indeed like in a really dire state. Let's come together and make like a reasonable peace agreement. I don't know if that ever happens. It hasn't happened yet.
Just finish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want me to wrap up?
Yeah, you wrap it up because.
Okay. So we have so much more to explore. But what I would say,
you can have
really,
the final word on that. We go to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. Really, what I would say is that this is. I mean, what you've described is almost by definition de-escalation, right? So I mean,
October 7th doesn't feel like that feels like the most extreme attack.
True,
ever.
but they've
Yeah.
true, but they've had allies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And which they were hoping to achieve something with these allies, and they were disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when you don't have allies? I mean, you've stated yourself earlier that part of what perpetuates the conflict is the involvement of the world, like of the international community. And I totally agree with you on that. But I think you don't put enough emphasis on, and I know that this is a subject that you're well acquainted with, the role of the Arab countries in basically creating the refugee problem, right? You've acknowledged it, I think, before. And once, you have the nations that created the problem, in a sense, because really the Palestine issue could have been a non-issue if the other Arab countries would have accepted defeat in 48, right? There would be probably really no conflict in any meaningful way, because the refugees would just get citizenship elsewhere, and you wouldn't have this refugee cult going around.
Sure. I half agree. I mean, they did in 48, right? Like, technically, Jordan did annex the West Bank formally, and they did give citizenship to all of those Palestinians.
Yeah, but they kept
a lot of who are living in Jordan who.
Yeah, but they kept this whole perspective of justice and it's not a coincidence that when you read even diplomatic statements by Arab countries today referring to the conflict, you would, you could look it up. It's even in the Saudi foreign ministry's announcements. You would always see the word just peace or just resolution, and really what the just
in
is
compliance with international. Yeah,
exactly, and that's really a dog whistle. The just thing is really just a dog whistle for right of return, of course. And
it's the resolution for
that's the justice part, and the international is, of course, the settlements are illegal. Although we could discuss this at length, but I think that Moshe wants us to.
Yeah, and we need to go.